Hey everybody, Paul Foster here with Second Hand Production, and today is Sunday, and this is technically our first official live stream where we're going to do a regular podcast every Sunday evening. I might drop the time a little bit earlier in the evening depending on how things go. We have quite a few people over on the other side of the pond that are interested in what we're doing over here, and a lot of really good people, so make it a little bit easier for them to participate. Hopefully everybody's having a great evening and is kind of winding it down, getting ready for the week again. And I wanted to say we had a great day yesterday with the hashtag IAmACreator crowd. If you have a YouTube channel and you're trying to grow that channel, this is a great network of people to get involved with. It is just basically supporting each other, helping each other kind of grow their channels in a positive direction that's not negative or false, or you're not buying likes. This is definitely a great way to get to know other creators, find creators with common interests, and grow your channel in a positive direction. So there is my plug for hashtag IAmACreator, and we are going to get going here. So let's see what we got. Let's see. Now tonight, last night we did a review on a short film that was done by James Cox, and he posted another short film today that he asked me to take a look at. So if we have some time at the end of this, maybe we take a look at that. But the overall big burning discussion for this evening is the kind of concept of what they call a Mary Sue or a Randy Stew. It can go either gender. It doesn't really matter. And what does that mean? If you Google what does Mary Sue mean, in film, you'll come up with, a couple 100,000 responses. It's a pretty common term. And what it actually represents, and I actually looked it up. I went to Wikipedia, which is obviously the modern replacement for Webster's dictionary. And it deals with, unfortunately, it can be false about a lot of things, and you can't just necessarily take everything you get off Wikipedia at blind faith. But I think this is a fairly accurate interpretation of what a Mary Sue is. And according to Wikipedia, a Mary Sue is an idealized and seemingly perfect fictional character. Often this character is recognized as an author insert or wish fulfillment. A male can only be referred to as a Marty Stew, can also be referred to as a Marty Stew, Larry Stew, or Gary Stew. But Mary Sue is used more commonly to represent all. So how did this come to be? Well, there's a lot of people out there that have kind of talked about this. And the most common reference when it's kind of become this big out there is the recent Star Wars movies with the Force Awakens, and then the follow up with the Last Jedi, and the reference to our character, our protagonist Rey, being called a Mary Sue, not a Mary Stew, a Mary Sue. So what's happened is you have a large group of people that have also turned around and anybody that make that reference, they were called misogynist, male chauvinistic. They were called, they didn't like strong female leads. None of that is true. It has nothing to do with a strong female lead or a strong female supporting character. And it has nothing to do with the actress themselves. Because as I've said before, if something doesn't look right on the screen, you can just look at the guy that's getting all the credit or the woman that's getting all the credit and has their name and the big marquee underneath the banner, the director, and you can blame them. So the big burning question about the concept of the Mary Sue, and it's like, where did it begin? Well, it began back in the 1970s. There's some great information out there if you want to look that up. And I have it here, but it was actually part of some Star Trek fandom that was done back in the 1970s by a woman named Paula Smith, and she created a parody. It was really just intended to be more of a mockery joke about Star Trek. And Mary Sue was a young, up and coming. What was her race? She was a lieutenant. Just graduated from the academy with highest honors, and she starts out stepping foot. Nobody knows. She has no credibility. She steps foot on the Enterprise, and she's like, gee golly gosh, what was the term? Gee golly gosh, Glorioski. I'm the youngest lieutenant to ever graduate with highest honors from the academy. I've won all these awards, and I'm only 15 years old. And then I think it's Captain Kirk runs up to her. He says, "Oh, I'm in love with you. You're so beautiful." And she's like, "I'm not that kind of girl." And he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I totally respect you. Let me go get his cop." And then he leaves the uh, leaves the scene, and he tells her to watch the. He leaves the command deck, tells her to watch the chair while he's gone, and then to add to the irony of this, and Spock comes in and he's like, "What are you doing sitting in the captain's chair?" And she's like, "Well, he left me in charge." He goes, "Well, that makes totally logical sense." He just carry on, and then later she at a later point in this story, she has a moment where they're all captured down on a planet, and she confides in Spock that she's half Vulcan, and so they have a moment there where they can relate, and then when they get back to the ship, she helps diagnose this. The whole crew, the entire landing party becomes sick, and she helps Doc Bones diagnose the illness. Of course, she's Mary Sue, so she didn't get sick. So, but everybody else was so sick, and she helped cure them. And then at a later point, she becomes sick and she becomes ill and she dies, and everybody's around her crying. And just so the original definition of what a Mary Sue is someone who is a supporting character, as the definition on Wikipedia stated. It's more of a wishful thinking kind of character that's been inserted into a story that really renders all other characters irrelevant, because no matter what this person does, it's going to be a win-win. So when in the original 1970s story, Mary Sue ends up dying at the end, and everybody feels sorry. And that's the whole premise, that she would die at the end, and everybody would just mourn her loss because she was too good for this planet. So that being said, I was digging around, and because the whole thing with Star Wars and some other recent films has brought the term Mary Sue back to the forefront. It's back out front where everybody gets to see what's going on. And I'm showing I don't have any viewers right at the moment. I'm not sure what's going on. I had someone pop in, then they left. So I'm not sure if I'm having a problem. Hopefully I'm not. And everything's going well. And people are able to see this live stream. But so I went online and I was curious, I found a list of people that are being classified as a Mary Sue, and I was going to kind of like go through and dissect that list. Now, I think the modern interpretation of Mary Sue is somewhat changed. It's no longer a supporting character. You can have the main character, your protagonist in a film, or the antagonist in the film become a Mary Sue, and they can exhibit those kind of traits. And I think the premise of the concept of a Mary Sue is just any character who is good at anything without any prior training or any education. They just know it. I watched Rampage. I just watched Rampage today, and you have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson plays a character named Davis Okoye. Okay, Davis Okoye, and the premise of his character, from what I gather, is he is basically he works at a zoo as an animal trainer / keeper or / communicator. And his specialty is working with gorillas. And he had spent years hunting down poachers. And he had found a very rare albino gorilla whose mother was butchered by poachers. And he saved that gorilla from these poachers. And this was after his military service was over. I guess he was freelancing as a contractor or something in Africa, and he came across these poachers, and he's obviously very pro animal. In this film, his character doesn't trust humans. He's more he trusts an animal that could possibly kill him more than he would trust a human. And so in this case, here we have a somewhat sketchy established background on how I mean, because he learned sign language. He taught George, which is the albino gorilla. You can see him in the cover art. He taught George sign language. They have regular humorous communication. It's an entertaining film. That's not the issue. But about 2/3 the way through it, a little over halfway, when things are getting really ugly, that's when you find out he has a military background, that he came out of special services, and that his dossier out of the CIA is full of redactions. And that is, he's opposed by Jeffrey D. Morgan, who plays Agent Harvey, who is kind of calling him out. I thought Jeffrey D. Morgan was awesome in this film. It's very entertaining. And I actually thought, The Rock was decent, and Naomi Harris was okay. There's nothing wrong with the acting. And I actually thought for the movie as a whole, considering you're basing off a video game from 30 years ago, whatever, it was pretty entertaining. I don't know if the CGI that was done in this film really kind of lived up to expectations, considering how much they spent on the film as a whole. I mean, I was talking to my wife earlier today, and I said that Deadpool had a budget of about $58 million, and Rampage, I think, somewhere between 120, $160 million, and the Deadpool CGI was just light years ahead of what they did in Rampage. So that all being said, it doesn't really matter how much money you have to throw at an issue. It just determines how skilled the artists are. But that is a complete segue from what we're talking about. So the argument that would be is, you're finding out about halfway through the movie that all of a sudden he's a special forces guy, and he's been all over the place. But you didn't know that until halfway through the movie. Now, granted, they did give you the background, and he is a little bit oversized and bulky to be a zookeeper. But the idea here is, then he's flying helicopters. I mean, it just gets a little extreme. And that's almost where I'm going with the whole Mary Sue concept. The most egregious example of a Mary Sue, unfortunately, is Rey from The Force Awakens. And in that film, here you have a young girl stranded on a planet that's impoverished. She's a scavenger. All right. She doesn't know who her parents are. The only equipment that she can operate when you meet Rey is she's got a little scooter that will haul stuff. She can drag things on the ground behind, and she is sleeping in the hollowed out shell of what they call an ATST that's laying on its side. And she has dreams of getting off the planet, but pretty sure she's an orphan that's raised herself, and she pretty much is always on her guard for predators, other creatures trying to enslave her or utilize her or whatever. So this is Rey, okay? And next thing you know, the very first serious action she gets into is she's jumping into what was considered a heap, which was the Millennium Falcon. And she is flying this thing like a badass all over the sky, through the hollowed out shell of a Star Destroyer, ditching and outmaneuvering with a much, much larger ship, by the way. She's outmaneuvering smaller ships that are operated by skilled pilots who've been to the Academy, the Imperial Academy, and they've obviously made at least the top of the class to land this gig, or at least passed a training simulator. And she is just ditching them left and right. And you can argue, oh, well, the Force is guiding her, it's raw Force. It's still a little bit of a push, all right? Because if you want to talk about, if you want to get into Star Wars lore, you can go back to the original Star Wars, A New Hope, with Luke Skywalker doing the trench run. All right, he had flown some minor stuff down on the planet on Tatooine, which made it to where he was capable of flying the TIE fighter. But you remember, he was channeled by his mentor in spirit alone in Obi-Wan Kenobi to tell him to trust the Force, okay, to use the Force and allow it to guide him in this shot on this trench run. Obi-Wan made multiple appearances. I mean, just, raw Force power in the canon of Star Wars had been established 30 years ago on what it looks like. So to change that because it's convenient, or you feel like we need to show an empowered female lead, I think that does a disservice to the story, to the actress, and to the character. So that's where, I mean, she is the ultimate epitome of a Mary Sue, unfortunately. All right. She's a talented actress. I've seen her do other stuff. And it's unfortunate that this particular, that Disney and the people that are running Lucasfilms have politicized this stuff to beyond belief, and gone all off the deep end with their approach towards the reboot of the Star Wars genre. But if you want to know what my interpretation of a Mary Sue is, it's basically, it's no longer just a supporting character who's taking over screen time from the lead characters. It's definitely a mainstream. It could be the protagonist who has unbelievable abilities that are unrealistic in the when put into perspective with the situation they're in. You know, and so we get into this list, and we'll talk about this list. But the concept that a Mary Sue is anything but that, you know, I think if you're to take into consideration the story and the kind of the physics of the environment that the audience is being asked to exist in, that's when you take into consideration whether or not somebody's a Mary Sue, and I'll elaborate on that in a minute. The back to the Ray and why I believe she's a Mary Sue is, first is she's flying. She's never been trained to fly any kind of a ship of any size, but she flew the Millennium Falcon, and she even admitted, right? She admits to, I can't think of his name, but the guy she's escaping with, she admits to him she doesn't know how she did it, and it's hard to believe that all of a sudden she's so powerful in the Force that it's natural, and that makes it unbelievable. Then you can add later that she really received no training, right? She received no training, yet she whooped up on, and I've talked about this before, but she whooped on Kylo Ren, who's been trained in the Force. So you can see in moments where she struggles with the dark and the light, but I mean, to beat him, and then you go fast forward to the Last Jedi. She pretty much self-trained herself. I mean, Luke Skywalker in Empire Strikes Back had to go out to Dagobah. He had to be trained by Yoda. Had to face his worst fear. Had to do all this stuff, and they kind of they just glossed over that in the Last Jedi, and so she's pretty much self-trained. He basically says, "I'm going to show you 3 things," and that's the end of that. And you can have a whole discussion about that, and plenty of people have, about how Disney kind of messed up the entire story arc of the Star Wars legacy and how it projects and how they're going to move it on. And I think the audience has answered that. If you oversaturate the market with stories, as Disney has with Star Wars movies, then people just start getting turned off from it, and they just don't go. If you look at Solo, it's entertaining movie, predictable beyond belief. I gotta think that Ron Howard was almost embarrassed to have his name on this thing, and he had to go in and clean it up. It's not an impressive movie. I didn't like the lead actor. It didn't look anything like Harrison Ford. That was a big problem for me and a lot of fans. And then you get probably a Star Wars story. The Rogue One was probably the closest to holding true, but then you get into the politics, and they introduce politics post, and that gets old. So that is my segue, and I kind of sidetracked there and got onto the soapbox about Star Wars. But there are plenty of movies you can use examples. You can say that I definitely think that Ray, sorry, you are definitely, your character is a Mary Sue. There's not much you can do about it, because Disney's going to continue to push this narrative to force feed this down to the general public, who believing that there's never been a strong female character in the Star Wars universe, ignoring what Princess Leia was. So you're a Mary Sue, and then you fast forward to some other films. You can definitely look at some male character leads and say, wow, there's one. But I think the key difference is if they're really good at what they were trained at and they're coming in saying, hey, I'm trained to do this, and they're really good at that, then it's less of them being a Mary Sue or a Gary Stu or whatever you want to call it, and more of them it's more just exaggerated entertainment. You can go back into the 80s when we had the action flicks, Commando and all of the Stallone movies, Cobra. Does anybody remember Cobra? And that was a cool car in Cobra, though. It's Cobra. It's Over the Top. Pick any of these movies where you just. But when you start to get into that, and it's not that these people, but these are characters that people want to succeed, and they have vulnerabilities. They're not perfect. Everybody wants to watch the character have a challenge, have to overcome that challenge, and then succeed by overcoming that challenge. The problem is Ray's never going to have a challenge that she can't overcome. She's going to be able to do things that she's never known how to do. I mean, did anybody watch? I keep going back to Star Wars. You ever watch The Force Awakens? Did you see the fight between her, Kylo Ren, and the elite Imperial guards? These are the what's that guy's name? I can't think of it. The villain. Doesn't really matter, but the Red Guard, that were part of the Emperor's Guard in Return of the Jedi. These guys were the elite of the elite. Not a problem. She's got this. So the idea behind that, I feel like there are certain situations where you're taking somebody, you put them in an impossible situation, and they can't win. They have tried to, I think the most recent movie where they tried to correct for that and not go too overboard with it was Tomb Raider, the remake. But I did have problems with Tomb Raider in the sense that they start out the film by allowing her to be shown as just kind of like almost, I don't want to call her a runaway, but in a way she's running from herself. She didn't beat anybody at anything, which I was watching the movie. I'm like, okay, that's good. Because she was doing some MMA training, which is going to play back later in the film. You knew that was going to happen. If they're going to show it, it's a precursor to what's coming later. And so they did the MMA training, and then the idea behind that was that later she was going to get into a fight. And unfortunately, when she lost the fight, she could not beat a female MMA fighter earlier in the movie. But later in the movie, she chokes out, drowns, and kills a grown military guy that weighs 85 to 100 pounds more than she does. She literally drowned him in a puddle of 2 inches of water by climbing on his back and forcing him to the ground and choking him out. And see, that's when people say, really? I mean, come on. Can't we do the Die Hard thing here? Where she's walking on glass saying yippee-ki-yay and on, all that stuff. And then just by sometimes pure luck getting out of a situation. Whatever happened to that? Because people really liked that. So that was honestly, when it got to her, there's a couple things that happened in that movie just absolutely just pissed me off, to be honest with you. There's a scene, and I just so you guys know, if you haven't figured it out yet, this whole episode's full of spoilers on movies that you probably should have seen by now if you were going to watch them. But the idea behind the Tomb Raider movie, she's estranged from her father. Her father left her and went off to do whatever he did. All right. Now she has to sign some paperwork, or the company and all their holdings in the house are going to go away. So she shows up to sign the paperwork, and then they give her this little puzzle box, and she sees the puzzle box, and it's a clue. So she runs out of the room. Okay. She runs out of the room, goes to the mansion, goes into the family crypt, and she unlocks what appears to be a secret laboratory or spy room where her dad has been accumulating information for years, and research and so on and so on. Now, the premise of this movie is good. The story is not bad, and it's not really supernatural what the outcome tends to be. And some of these characters are pretty believable. But she weighs maybe 115 pounds, if that, and she does some physically crazy, impossible things that I think had it been someone like more like the Angelina Jolie version, who's a little bit taller, she's got a little bit more weight on her. Not calling Angelina Jolie fat, but she has a little bit more going for her as far as believability when it comes to being able to, I don't know, drown a guy in 2 inches of water. I don't know. So I wouldn't really necessarily call her Mary Sue, but I definitely say there was a few things she did in that film that were absolutely stupid. I mean, I don't know how many times you get a chance to kill the evil guy, but you're supposed to do it the first time. I always get a kick out of someone starts to give you that diatribe explanation of what they're doing, and then they just say they shoot them before you get anything out of them. It's like, why bother? Yeah, just get to it, get to the point. So I've got this list. And I kind of wanted to go through this list and give you guys a little bit of a idea of what they're saying is a Mary Sue. And we're gonna talk about a few of these people. And if you do come in and you happen to be watching this live stream, definitely let me know. Drop me a message in the chat. I hope to hear from you guys and let you participate in this conversation. All right, let me find this thing. I got it here somewhere. Somewhere in here. I'm looking. Is that it? Okay, here it is. A list of Mary Sues. And what this is really just a list of people that they say qualify as a Mary Sue. And the very first one they come up with is Alice from Resident Evil. And I kind of agree with this one. There's just there gets a point. Now, I mean, they gave Alice kind of these special powers, and then when they took them away, she still couldn't get hurt. All right. So I'm going to say, yeah, Alice from Resident Evil is a Mary Sue. I think she just doesn't seem to be able to do anything without getting hurt. I mean, she can't get hurt doing anything. She can ride motorcycles like she's a motocross championship. She can wield katanas. She can fire a shotgun with deadly accuracy. She's scared of nothing. That's maybe early on she wasn't the first one, but by the time you get to the last one, it's more of a joke. She's become more of a myth than anything else. So let's see who the next one they have in here. I'm going to skip the video game ones because most people, including myself, probably don't know what they're referring to. But this next one I thought was kind of interesting is Batman. Batman is a Mary Sue, and it says in an unskilled author's hands. I like that. It's because one of the effective DC editorial mandates is that Batman is not allowed to be truly defeated. He's usually too popular and has a presence in too much of the DC universe to be allowed the downtime by editorial unless it's part of a major storyline such as Nightfall. A certain tendency for Batman is to turn into a Mary Sue is well documented. Okay. According to this is starting the first. Okay. So it's in read JLA's Act of God and Weep. That story was all about starting the first Church of Batman or Hell. Check the Dark Knights. That's going to go on. It says, while Batman does have plot armor, I don't know what that means. Generally, no one thinks to just shoot him when they get the chance. And the few times they do, he escapes. And he's never unexpectedly engaged by superhuman opponents who could easily beat him, like Darkseid. The same can be said for other non-superpowered heroes. That being said, there are many ways of adding dramatic tension to such foregone conclusions, such as and above. Mandate only include actual defeat, so Batman is allowed to fall and make mistakes in certain situations, which also helps lessen the Bat-Sue factor. I like that they call it a Bat-Sue. So, and if you want to read this list in full, you can go to 1d4chan.org. And it's part of a wiki that they have. where they put this list of Mary Sues together. So I want to make sure I give full credit where credit is due. I did not write this list. I'm just reacting to the list. Now, Batman being a Mary Sue, I think that was kind of addressed in the Dark Knight series, because he did become, by the time he got to the third one, he was aged and it was time to pass the gauntlet. And that was kind of the way that was playing out. You know, he kept getting hurt more and more. He wasn't able to heal. He was having downtime. He relies heavily on technology. As far as his martial arts, that was clearly addressed in the first Batman movie, which I thought was good, because they had to address where did he learn these skills. So I really don't consider him a Mary Sue or a Gary Stu for that reason. I think what was it? Was it Christopher Nolan that did the Batman series? I think it was. Let me look that up. I think it was Christopher Nolan. Let's see. Oh, I do have somebody watching. Hey, what's up, Gold Answer 21? Okay, hey man, we don't do sub for sub here. I'll definitely check out your channel, but just so you know, we don't do sub for sub, because that'll get you in trouble with YouTube. Don't want to go down that road. So I appreciate your support, you know, but just to be clear, I cannot do sub for sub. It is against the rules. But I do appreciate you showing up. We're talking about Mary Sue's, and we are. I had it, and now I went to go look for something else, and I misplaced it. Do you know, Golden Swagger 21? Do you know if it was Christopher Nolan that did the Dark Knight series, the recent trilogy of Batman movies? That's the burning question I'm trying to sort out real quick. I think it was Christopher Nolan. I believe it was. Let's see. That's okay. Man, where did that thing go? I had it. There it is. No. Where'd it go? Oh my gosh, I had it. Oh, there it is. All right, so yeah, I don't really think Batman would qualify as a Gary Stu, someone that would be perfect. He's obviously he's the protagonist, he's the main character. He can be hurt. I think he does. His martial arts background was kind of clarified in the first in the relaunch of the Batman series with Christopher Nolan, and so I think that was addressed. And so I would not put him on this list. All right, moving down the list. Let's see, who else do we have here? Edward Cullen from Twilight. All right, come on, he's a vampire. Edward Cullen was a vampire, so I don't think you can qualify that as a Mary Sue or a Gary Stu, because vampires are pretty solid. Not too many people try to go and kill them successfully. Hey man, I appreciate that. Thanks, Golden Spire. So I mean, if you don't agree with that, I would love for somebody to explain to me why Edward Cullen is a Mary Sue. Let's see what they said. They said this character is the reason the popularity of vampires took a massive hit. Ice Rose, how you doing? Thanks for stopping in. So the question to anybody that's watching in the chat, anybody that wants to leave comments below, is we're talking about the concept of Mary Sue's and Gary Stu's, which is a character archetype in film that they are perfect in every way, regardless of background or training. And so I'm going through a list that I found online where they're talking about people they've classified as one of these two type of characters in film. And so far we've gone through Batman, which I do not agree, because it's been addressed in the Christopher Nolan version of the films. But next they have Edward Cullen, and here's what they're saying. The character is the reason for the popularity of vampires took a massive hit when the book came out. Possibly the most inspiring aspect is he introduced the idea that vampires sparkle harmlessly like diamonds in the sunlight. Oh, is it because sunlight no longer bothers them? He can read minds, is near impossible to kill, doesn't feed off humans despite his literal bloodlust, except for criminals of those who deserve to die, which is that's a popular theme. There's that whole California, there's California or whatever. There's a Drew Barrymore show on Netflix right now where she gets turned into a zombie, and the only way they can feed her lust for brains, I guess, and she's still a mom. Her husband still loves her, but she has this urge to eat people, and they've decided to make her likable because she only eats bad people. And then there's another zombie show where it's the corner, and when she bites, I guess into a dead person, she can take up their memories. And so there's more of this where we're taking vampires and zombies and we're making them likable. Not too long ago, there's a movie. I forget the name of the movie, but he became human when he fell in love. But he fell in love, he was dead. Nobody was alive anymore, and he was dead. I think he was in an airport. It was a cute movie, but yeah. So yeah, I got to make zombies and vampires, likable. Let's see. So, despite being a textbook case of an emotionally abusive and controlling boyfriend to Bella, he's always treated as having the moral high ground, except when he refuses to make Bella a vampire. But that gets swept under the rug as soon as he changes his mind. So, hey, what's up for viewing play RPM? Appreciate you showing up, man. Appreciate you coming. So I don't know, man. He's a vampire. So I mean, the idea that Edward Cullen would somehow be a Mary Sue is kind of silly because most vampires would qualify as being almost impenetrable. It's a concept. Anybody remember Fright Night? You watch Fright Night? I mean, the idea behind Fright Night was you were not going to kill this guy. The only way you could kill him is if you caught him when he was sleeping, right? And the only way he could really hurt you is if you invited him into your house. So there were some limits applied there. But I mean, if you guys remember Fright Night, or even the remake of Fright Night, which wasn't too bad, it had some questionable CGI at the end of that, but it started out good. I know my wife loved it, my daughter loved it. So I just don't think if you're a vampire, you can be a Mary Sue. I don't think it's possible because you're pretty much you're invincible already. All right, so moving on. Next person that got on the list, and if you guys think of anybody that would qualify that in modern film as being just too perfect, I'm interested in your take. So definitely drop me a message in the chat, and we can talk about those. Let's see, Jacob Black. All right, we got another person from Twilight. Once again, he kind of becomes a supernatural creature that can't really be hurt unless, I guess, they're killed by a vampire. So then he has the truce with the vampires. But they can kill each other. So I don't know that he kind of qualifies with that. Let's see what they say here. So werewolf from the Twilight franchise, he commits date rape on Bella. Nice. Forcing a kiss. Wait a second. So forcing a kiss is date rape. Wow. He trolls the vampires and switches sides between the werewolves and the vampires without consequences. The worst part is when he falls in love with Bella and Edward's newborn daughter because of the vision practice. That's a little bit creepy. I got to admit, when I saw it. So I'm going to tell you guys, my wife tricked me to watching the second Twilight movie. And I remember I sat there through the whole movie. And when it was over, I was like, that's it. That's it. That's it. Oh, man, I can't believe I just watched this. Then we go, and then she goes, no, it's all going to be in the third movie. You got to watch the third with me. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to sit down and watch this third movie with you. We sit down, and then they start killing each other, and they're ripping each other to shreds. I'm like, yeah, this is getting good. Finally, something's happening in this movie other than a bad episode of, The Days of Our Lives. And then at the end, it was all a freaking dream, a vision. And I remember it's an evil fly. Yes, it's an evil fly. I remember sitting in the theater, I was one of those people, I'm going to admit it. I was like, I literally projected. It came right out of my mouth in the middle of the theater. All these people are like, are you serious? That was what I said. And people are all looking at me. I'm like, oh, come on. It's like I was so pissed off that it all turned into this stupid vision. Nobody died because, we got to feel good about ourselves. Nobody died. No vampires were killed in the making of this movie. And then you get the weird, really, really sick, incestuous kind of cross relationship things going on between their kid and Jacob. Just strange stuff. No, he's not a Mary Sue. It's just bad writing. All right, let's see who's next. James Bond. Who thinks James Bond would be a Mary Sue? I'm just curious if anybody agrees with that concept. All right. It says, well, see, it's interesting. They're saying it varies. And you have to take into consideration there are different kind of like generations of James Bond here. You know, you had the earlier ones. See, you watched Amityville Horror. Okay, so RPM says I watched Amityville Horror, and when the cat comes on the screen, I just started laughing, and I thought it was so ridiculous. There's so many movies out there like that where it's like I remember watching what was the one with oh Pet Cemetery. I thought that was actually the dumbest thing I'd ever watched. It was really just, I still to this day do not understand that movie, and nor will I ever watch it again because I'm convinced it's just weird. All right. If anybody thinks that Stephen King is a genius, I would argue with you that he's not. All right. If you watch the remake of it, that is a sick mind that made that. And I'm don't get me wrong, guys. I'm not just some. I'm not some. I'm not going to be running around closing down restaurants on Sunday for serving alcohol. I'm nowhere near that. But it's like it didn't. I watched it, and I'm just like, this is just disturbing on so many levels. It's like, and if you've read the book, you know it's worse than what was in the movie. You know, with the girl and her dad and the boys and everything that's going on there. And in the remake of it, they really screwed up because the original book was written and the original movie made for TV series that came out in 1982 says the fact they have pet cemeteries is kind of different, but proving a great business. Yeah, I'm no joke. I mean, that's big business, man. You know, pet cemeteries. I got 4 acres, and my pet cemetery is in my backyard. So, no, but the movie It, if you've read the book, then it's very disturbing, and there's a lot of uh, adult children inappropriate kind of relationships kind of discussed in that book, and so but what the part they messed up on is when they filmed the remake of it, and I watched it. I thought the guy that played, I forget his name, played it. You know, what's his name? Pettygrass, Periwinkle. I forgot, but I thought he did a great job. I thought the makeup was awesome. I thought the character was great. Oh yeah, see, well, it was it's definitely over the top. And if you're around in 1983 and you watched the made for TV version, it's just so weird. It's just messed up. I mean, he turns out it's an alien, and he's feeding off these kids' fears, and that's how he gets life. So he eats them. He scares them basically to death, and then he's got this huge colony, and he turns into the spider like thing, and he's chasing people around the sewer system. But in the remake, where they made mistakes was they had continuity time period mistakes because the kids still dressed and acted like they were in the 1950s, but the film was modernized to make it to be it was like the 1980s. So it was filmed today like it was 1980s because the idea was they were actually going to come back and they were going to shoot a sequel to that with these same, with actors playing the kids because they did do something with them as an adults. They did like the reunion, some kind of goofy thing, but the mistake they made was they go to the watering hole, they go to swimming, which they would have done in the 1950s, but in the 1980s, they would have never stripped down to their tidy whities. That didn't happen. All right. They didn't ride around on Schwinn bikes. All right. They were riding mongooses and BMXs in the 1980s. And yet the car that the main bully was driving was like a 1980s Firebird or Camaro. So it's just they had continuity problems with the remake. I liked the movie. I thought it telegraphed all its jump sequences and jump scares and didn't really scare anybody. But all in all, it was okay. I thought they had some good shots. But as soon as they killed the first kid, I knew they were going to telegraph all the other killings. So it was easy for me to watch. I didn't get scared or nothing. All right. So the next person on our list here, Jon Snow from the Game of Thrones is being called to Mary Sue. Does anybody agree with that? I don't agree with that. I thought Mary Sue's were like perfect in every way. Everybody loves them. Uh, uh, they're a supporting character that takes over, you know, for main characters. I just really don't see how Jon Snow is a Mary Sue. The guy's he's a bastard child from the north. He reluctantly gets a wolf. His stepmother hates him. She treats him like trash. He gets sent to the wall to be one of the men on the watch. You know, he was smart. But see, here's the thing about the Mary Sues, right? Mary Sues don't they don't have anything that connects their experience to what they're doing. So there's no explanation. They just can do anything. And Jon Snow he learned how to fight just along next to his stepbrothers. He was obviously an accomplished swordsman, and then he was a smart, intelligent guy, and that's how he was able to survive as long as he did. And technically, he did die. They brought him back to life. When they had the, when he was kind of like betrayed at the watch. So no, Jon Snow's not a Mary Sue. That's crazy. All right, next. I'm not even going to read what they say about him. Let's see who else they got on this. I know I was reading this earlier, and I was just like, you got to be kidding me. Let's see. Keep going. Oh, Master Chief from Halo. There's only been one really good Halo movie I've ever watched, and it's called Halo. I think it's Unto Dawn, and it's more of it's a little bit. It's like a really long short film, and that was really, really good. But I don't think Master Chief is perfect. Let's see. I mean, they talk about how he saved the universe twice. But Master Chief is a genetically engineered human that is geared and genetically created and heightened to fight these creatures. Now you can say it's unreasonable that one person can go storming through an alien planet and not get killed. That's fair enough. I guess you could say but my whole premise on the Mary Sue, as I've said at least 3 times so far, is that a Mary Sue's background is unexplained and irrelevant. So they don't have to justify how they're good at everything. They just are, it's like I said earlier when Rampage, when Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who looks like he's hyped up on massive steroids at this point, he looks like he's about to pop in that movie. When he's a tough sell as a, zoologist. He's a tough sell. And then you find out, well, he's not really a zoologist. Obviously, he's a former special ops. For once, honestly, I would like to say, I'd like him to say, hey, when they go dig up the backgrounds on these people that are supposed to have military backgrounds in movies, they go, oh, I see you did a 4-year minimum in the reserves, and you got out. Instead of, in Rampage, his entire background was redacted, so they couldn't find anything on him. But it inferred that he was extremely good at what he does. There's a line in that movie too that just kind of was like, oh, seriously? He's talking about saving George, and if you haven't watched the movie, go watch the movie. You can stop watching me now. I'm ruining, I know, but he had saved George as a small albino gorilla. And he was running from poachers, and he has this line where she goes, well, what happened? And he goes, they shot at us and missed. I shot back and didn't. And I'm just like, oh my God. It's like, did the writer really just like have a wet dream when he came up with this one? Seriously? I was just like, okay. That's the zoologist. All right, moving along. Who else we got here? Trying to see who else I saw somebody on here that I really, really, man. Let's see. Let's see. No. And there's all kinds of people. You got the StarCraft series. They're saying Sarah Kerrigan from StarCraft. Last I checked, she got injected by aliens and got turned into their queen. So to say that she was somehow a Mary Sue is kind of goofy. I don't agree with that. Celine from Underworld. Once again, we got a vampire. Not just any vampire, a special vampire. She was special because not that she was well trained. So I don't know. I mean, within the confines of that world, what she did for a living for the vampires, you know. Oh yeah, we're still live. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Celine from Underworld it would be considered a Mary Sue. What about Superman? Do you guys think Superman would be considered a Mary Sue? They got him on the list. It says in the hands of a poor writer, his morally perfect, one of the strongest beings in the DC universe, and his one weakness is that is supposed to kill him, never works. You think he is? You think Superman's a? I don't. I mean, in the original Superman, was it Lois Lane helped him, didn't she? In the original Superman, didn't Lois Lane take the kryptonite off of him? I can't remember. No, it wasn't Lois Lane. It was Lex Luthor's girlfriend helped him. Otherwise, he would have died. And technically, if you want to get technical in the Superman movie, which is I just was it Batman versus the dumbest movie I've ever seen. Batman versus Superman. All right, they had to. They reached so far out there. I mean, it was like a reach to find something for these two to have in common. So all of a sudden, Batman's mom's got a name. Just happens to be the same name as Superman's mom. So they spend this whole time fighting. You know, Batman's got like the spear of destiny, and he's going at Superman with it with a piece of kryptonite on the tip. And that movie was so unbelievable, even for a Marvel, the DC universe. Batman shouldn't have lasted 20 seconds against Superman, even in that reinforced suit. I think it's a joke, And then when they team up at the end, and hey, by the way, here's Gal Gadot and Wonder Woman. All of a sudden, Batman was a backseat observer to the fight with that whoever that was, that alien creature that they fought at the end of the movie. It was almost like he's like got popcorn off to the side. Yeah, see, it's just this is the problem. This is the problem when you get into this. It's like you have a complete history, and then you're putting them in modern day. So you're as a fan, as a viewer, we're going to apply just standard physics, and we're going to say, okay, well, he's Superman. He can do all this really cool badass shit because he's an alien. He's not from this world. We've determined this. The sun rejuvenates him. The only thing that can kill him is a rock from his own planet, right? When the odds of any debris from Krypton even coming near the Earth, if you want to get into real astrophysics and all, is like 1 in a trillion or some goofy number like that. But that being said, they seem to find a lot of it to use against Superman. I didn't really care for the reboot of Superman, with this moral dilemma between him and the other people, and the S means hope is just stupid. Even if his suit was made from kryptonite, technically, I guess you could say that here's an interesting thing. Since he was sent in that little, crystal shuttle to Earth that landed in that was dragged in that barn, right? He would just take a big pipe and whack him from a distance. There you go. I agree with that. But you think about it, that thing, the little cradle thing that they kept, that was from Krypton. That should have killed Clark Kent long before he ever became Superman. And I find that extremely interesting that didn't hurt him. I guess it just made him human, right? Just took away all his powers. I don't think Superman's a Mary Sue. All right. I think Batman was Superman's bitch in Batman versus Superman. And I think that, matter of fact, the whole DC thing has just not worked for me. I've kind of burned out on the Marvel stories because it's just like constantly, what? Oh, we got another Captain America movie coming out. Woo! Yay me! Oh well, we're gonna do Infinity Wars. We're gonna drag all of them in there, and then we're gonna kill everybody at the end. Woohoo! Yay me! Did I ruin it for somebody? All right, let's see who else we got here. Cruising along. Wesley Crusher. Who, you guys know what Wesley Crusher is? This is kind of funny. I really didn't think Wesley Crusher was really a relevant character. Pretty much, he was just kind of more like, we need a kid. All right, hey, you come over. Yeah, put the grip down. You're no longer a grip. You're going to be in this film. And then Wesley Crusher is from the Star Trek Next Generation. What was it called? Next Generation. Let's see. Originating from the same as the franchise originally, the original Mary Sue concept came from, which is true. Wesley is very young, ensign trained to be an officer in Starfleet, where he has earned the admiration of many of the bridge officers. He was just an afterthought, but he did turn into a special being in the end, though. Yeah, I remember him becoming kind of like, like the go-to kid for Captain Picard. And I don't know. I don't know what the deal was with him. He really, as far as contributing factor, he didn't really seem to contribute much in the early part of that series when he first got on board. The guy's name? The guy named that played, was that Will Wheaton? And he was in a series that I absolutely loved, called The Guild. It was a web series that ended up on Netflix. Funniest damn thing I'd ever watched. I mean, if you've ever played any kind of online MMOs or anything like that, you go watch that and you just laugh your ass off. He was like a being that has the ability to use his mind to do things. Oh, then he's definitely, I mean, really? So it turned out he wasn't a kid? I never watched the end of that series. RPM, you just ruined Star Trek The Next Generation for me. I had planned in 10 years to go back and watch something from 20 years ago. Now, I don't know who, I didn't know that. Let's see. I did not know that. That's good to know. Chef Disaster. I like that name. What's up? How's it going, man? All right, let's see. Who else do we got on this list? We're getting then they get into oh, here you go. And then they get into what they call he was met as a traveler, and he learned that he had a very unique. Okay. I didn't know that. That's news. Oh, thanks for sharing, man. Hey, I appreciate that, Chef. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're just kind of like going through. We're talking about what I do is I'm primarily into filmmaking, and that's my thing. And with recent movies, Star Wars being the most recent, that's brought this to the terms. April, what's up? How you doing? An L6 here. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, we're talking about all this list that I found of people that are being classified as Mary Sues within film, and it really has nothing to do with gender. It has to do with the type of character being played. And Mary Sue is more of a wishful character inserted by the writer, and they can do nothing wrong. Everything is perfect. All is glory and. Okay, yeah. All right, so April said, when you are finished with your topic, I like that. I have a YouTube request question. I wanted to wait till the end. All right, yeah, definitely. So then they get into, RPM. They go into races now. And the first one, which I got a kick out of, it said Angry Marines. It said, when have you ever watched an angry Marine lose? in film. And that is so true. I've never seen, well, you know, I take it back. Um, um, oh, what movie is that? I've seen it, but it's a historical movie. Let's see. It's, what was it? Heartbreak Ridge. Heartbreak Ridge. Is that it? Is that it? Yeah, yeah. I think that's it. Is that it? No, it's not Heartbreak Ridge. It's the one with if I get your expert stream. All right. Well, now I'm curious what your question is there, April. All right. So what's the movie? Ah, shoot. Yeah, it's not Heartbreak Ridge because that's got Clint Eastwood in it. There's a movie with Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson. Hacksaw Ridge. How much different? I was close, guys. So Hacksaw Ridge is a real something hotel. So Hacksaw Ridge, I think, is the name of the movie. I'm going to check. Is that it? No, that's not it. There's another movie. Ridge Smidge. So April, we're trying to remember the movie that Mel Gibson was in a few years ago because on this list for Mary Sue's are Marines that have never lost a fight, an angry Marine. And they're saying that every time you see an angry Marine in a movie, they're Mary Sue because they've never lost. So now I'm going to look up this movie because I know this movie and it's driving me nuts. Driving me crazy. All right, he's been in 60 movies. I did not know. Oh, yeah. All right, so let's see. There's some movies on this list for Mel Gibson I'm sure he wish he weren't in, like Signs. We Were Soldiers. That's the name of the movie. So in the movie We Were Soldiers, they end up getting overrun. It's a Vietnam kind of docudrama. Yes, We Were Soldiers. He did Hacksaw Ridge. That was another docudrama, kind of historical film from World War II. And then Heartbreak Ridge was the Clint Eastwood movie. The Hanoi Hilton. The Hanoi Hilton is an imprisonment camp. That was made in 1987. And Michael Moriarty, Paul LeMat, John Edwin Shaw. Yeah, the principal of We Were Soldiers, they got pinned down and a lot of people died. And it was like over 24, 72 hours. They were pinned down in this one spot and they were able to finally get out. But it was in the end, they lost. They held the position and they didn't lose the position, but then but it was the premise about, I guess I'm pretty sure they were Marines in that one. Yes, Vietnam. That is true. That was a Vietnam movie. Hamburger Hill, I remember that one. Let's see. I remember Full Metal Jacket. Anybody remember Full Metal Jacket? That was a classic. You know who directed Full Metal Jacket without looking at an IMDb? Since we've kind of evolved into a discussion of film in general, y'all are going to look. I know you're going to cheat. I won't look. It was Stanley Kubrick. Check. Let's see if I'm right. I think it was Stanley Kubrick. Yes. Stanley Kubrick is arguably the greatest director in cinematography. in cinematic history. If you look at the number of awards he obtained over his career and the number of films that he had that were nominated, it's just, I mean, if you look at what his filmography is, it's just off the chart. Let's see, where is he at? I'll share this with you. This is crazy. You guys know who Stanley Kubrick is? 2001: Space Odyssey. Let's see. I'm just going to look at his directing credits. He's got 16 directing credits. Okay. Let's see. These Path to Glory, Spartacus, 2001: Space Odyssey, Clockwork Orange, The Shining, Full Metal Jacket, Eyes Wide Shut. I mean, this guy's he's been nominated for any number of awards. He's only won one Oscar. There's been another 40 wins and 57 nominations. So yeah, Stanley Kubrick. And if you really, really want to get in conspiracy theory and you tap into the conspiracy theory network about whether or not the moon landings were real, one of their conspiracy theories is that Stanley Kubrick is the one that directed on a soundstage the lunar landing. There you go. I don't know if you knew that or not. That is a common conspiracy theory. All right, April. So what's your burning question? You had a question. I think if I had to pick a director that I would probably aspire to be more like, it would be somewhere between like what Ron Howard's done and the success he's seen, and oh dang it, I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden. Drawing a blank, and let's see. I'm going to tell you who. Oh, I thought he did that. Let's see. There, 2005. Ridley Scott. Those are probably my two favorite directors. I'm a big Guillermo del Toro fan as well. I think I really like what he does. Live streaming for newbies. Oh, Stanley Kubrick, The Shining. That's all I got to say. I mean, all the other stuff, that's cool. The Shining is top notch in my book. And like I said, Clockwork Orange, Full Metal Jacket, Eyes Wide Shut. These are all very established movies. Space Odyssey 2001, Space Odyssey 2001 was just like groundbreaking for its time. And that's, I mean, he's got 16 directing credits, and I think 13 of his films were nominated for Oscars. So it doesn't get much better than that. I'm a big Ron Howard fan. I'm a big, like I said, I really like Guillermo del Toro because, I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen this. If you haven't, it's in Spanish. It's subtitled in English, but Pan's Labyrinth. Have you seen Pan's Labyrinth? If you have not seen Pan's Labyrinth, I strongly encourage you to watch it. That is just an incredible film. And I would watch that dubbed in English. Jordan loves it. The others I love. Yeah, for years it was still groundbreaking. Yes, it was. It definitely was. So if you watch Pan's Labyrinth, he did you can always tell Guillermo del Toro's work. You can pick it out of a crowd. He did Crimson Tide. This is the Crimson Tide. Well, the funny thing is special effects have been around for 60, 70, 80 years. I mean, back then they would, the way they'd have to do it, they'd have to film them separately and they'd have to splice them together. But visual effects have been around for years. It wasn't until I think it was in the 1970s when, and then you get into the early 80s when it actually became digitized. Most people don't realize that, but the earliest digitized film was done I think it was Steven Spielberg, and it was a young Sherlock Holmes episode where the knight's going to go through a pane. A ghost knight is jumping through just a suit of armor. He's jumping through a pane of stained glass, and they digitized the entire scene to match it up. And just like with coloring, and coloring started in 1999 with "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," where they filmed the entire movie, but the director, and I forget his name, wanted to add more of a sepia look. Say that movie. Which movie was that? Oh, you saw that movie. Which one? Which one did you see? April's saying she saw the movie. Which one are you referring to? "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," or the Sherlock, the early Sherlock Holmes mysteries that were directed in the first digitized stuff? Ah, you saw all right. So that's kind of cool, huh? So that is actually the first time something was actually, and it was ILM that did it. ILM's the ones that took those shots and digitized them. So coloring really got started in 1999. Oh, nah. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. I mean, shoot, I seen it. Um, I'm dating myself here. But "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," what they wanted is they wanted more of a desaturated sepia look to make it feel like it was 1930s. And so they shot it on film stock, and they digitized the entire film and colored it in a computer. And that was the beginning of modern day coloring of film, which now everything's colored. Doesn't matter. Um, the mainstay industry standard for coloring is probably Blackmagic's Da Vinci. Um, and Da Vinci's, people make careers out of coloring now. So yeah, "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" was a great movie. It was very entertaining. One of my favorite movies of all times is "Kingdom of Heaven" by Ridley Scott, and it has Orlando Bloom and the incredibly talented and beautiful Eva Green. And I've told my wife if I ever met Eva Green, she might as well just sign the papers. Eva Green is an incredible actress. She's awesome. My wife actually really likes her. She just got she'll go back and she'll watch Penny Dreadful because she likes her so much. Not just but Liam Neeson. Recently, there's this thing on Facebook where they do these kind of like motivational, kind of like panoramic slides where they're talking about Liam Neeson's career and how he started out as a nobody and how he was discovered and he was stuck and he got cast for Schindler's List. And what people don't realize is like, all right, he didn't start from nothing. I mean, he had been acting for easy 10 years. He had done other stuff before he got Schindler's List. All right. He was in the movie Kroll. Okay. I don't know. Does anybody remember the movie Kroll? I actually own it. If that doesn't sound bad. So yeah, he was in the movie Kroll, and that was probably 1983, 84. Yeah, see RPM. Yeah, Kroll's an awesome movie. I love Kroll. I really dig those old. Yes. So the idea, and then they got a little. It wasn't. And they said that he took 20 years off after his wife had the accident and died, and that's not true either. And I was like, man, this is like selective. They act like, it was just pure luck. Liam Neeson, pure luck. He got cast. He just happened to be in this theater, and he was on stage acting, and Spielberg was in the theater. Oh, what are the odds? And he saw him, and he was blown away by him. He said, "Hey, I want you to star my next epic. It's called Schindler's List. I think we might be able to fill a seat. We might be able to do something with this." and I want you to be in it. There's just no way. I mean, it's just not how this works. I mean, and it just really kind of irks me that you get these selective history type things just to make people feel good or, feel it's nothing wrong to motivate people. But when you're kind of like doing some selective revisionist history on someone's life to accomplish that, I'm not a big fan with that. So yeah, I mean, he's been around for years. As a matter of fact, they said he relaunched his career 20 years later with Taken. Really? I didn't know that when I was watching him in Kingdom of Heaven in 2005. I did not know that. Yeah. Overnight sensation in Hollywood. There you go. What are the odds? It's kind of funny. I do get people that approach me and ask, I get people that ask me if I know people or if I can get in touch with people. And unfortunately, that's just not how it works. You cannot approach some of these main people. You can't send them scripts. You can't contact them. You have to go through the studios, or you have to go through a process to reach these people. And most of them aren't going to touch you. So I prefer the Lincoln story. Ran for office a ton of times. Didn't get elected until he did. There you go. But that's not sexy. That's not sexy. Unless, and nowadays, if you were to do a Lincoln story like that now, I mean, he would have had to have like 2 affairs. His kid would have had to have died from leukemia. His dog would have had rabies. He would have done an Old Yeller thing and had to take him out to the shed. I mean, that's the only way they would have done a movie like that now. Matter of fact, the last Lincoln movie I saw was Lincoln versus Vampires. There you go. And it was just like, you're just shaking your head. Lincoln versus Vampire, really? And I guarantee you, some kid wrote a book report on that. And they thought it was actual history. I guarantee you it happened. Yeah. It's like my favorite president was Abraham Lincoln because he saved this country from vampires. I can see that happening. If we wouldn't have had him to be the very first vampire slayer in the United States, I can see it. Oh, it's too much. Revisionist creative fictional history here, guys. So April, what was so your question was live streaming for noobs? Is that what you said? I was trying to. Was that your actual question, or was that just a joke you were throwing at me? It wasn't bad though. No, on an entertainment level, sure, it wasn't bad. Darkman, yes, love Darkman. That was what's his name? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. What's his name? Oh, Darkman. Was he in Darkman? I thought that was oh heck. Now you're gonna make me look it up. Bad April. I gotta look it up. Darkman. Let's see. Was that Liam Neeson? Holy cow. I think they did a remake on it. Didn't they? Thought they did a remake on it. 1990. I didn't know that. Shoot. I'm in. I'm watching that. My favorite movies, honestly, are I grew up in the between the late 70s and the early 80s. And if you were around back then, oh, Footloose. No, I can't do Footloose, man. John Lithgow, being this overzealous preacher. It was really sad because the guy that he taught how to, if you remember, the guy that he was teaching how to dance in Footloose, this was like 5-6 years ago. He as he got older, he just play mobster number 3. and he ended up dying from a heart attack. It's kind of unfortunate and sad, but I grew up in the 80s, and everybody was convinced that the world was coming to an end, that Ronald Reagan was going to push that button, and him and Gorbachev were going to trigger a nuclear war. And so Hollywood was cranking out post-apocalyptic movies left and right. I mean, B movie, C movie. I mean, yeah, the Mad Max stuff was out in the late 70s, but then they came out with, what was it? The Beyond the Thunderdome, and there's like 3 Mad Max movies that came out, or 2 Mad Max movies that came out in the 80s, but they had all these post-apocalyptic movies that came out in the 80s, and I love them all. I mean, they're riding around on dirt bikes that have been modded with like kitchen pans and and shopping carts, for see, The Day After. I don't know The Day After. Yeah, RPM. Remember those? You got like 5 guys, and apparently, I didn't know this, but in post-apocalyptic America, shoulder pads, NFL shoulder pads, are going to go for a premium. Invest in those now, because then you can just add some spikes to them. You don't need T-shirts. They're going to be all the rage. But yeah, minis, leather minis, chains, absolute Tina Turner. I remember that one. Yeah. Shoulder pads. You're going to need some proper attire for when you're chasing down that young couple that seem to look still relatively human, and are driving like their car, which is the only vehicle within 100 miles that has gas, and you want that gas, and you want the woman too, because you're going to take her. That's a given. That's like, it's like, okay, so we want to make a post-apocalyptic movie. What do we got to do? We need a hot chick that's wearing next to nothing. We need a goofy-looking guy that we can beat the hell out of, and then we need a bunch of crackhead-looking skinheads and people with spiked hairs that we can stick on motorcycles and beat up pickup trucks. It says, and a cave, because that's the safe place. It's like, then we just look at the remake of Mad Max, right? With Tom Hardy. I love Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy is an incredible actor. What he did in Warrior was just like, boom, blows your mind. Yeah, what's not to love, right? That's got Watch Me written all over it. It's like the 2 things they can't find. And I always say this. I was like, the idea that post-apocalyptic kind of world would be the entire world is a desert, man, I'd be like looking for the nearest water. There's going to be water. I don't care if it's ocean. I'm going to go find that. Yes, they know how to use ordnance. Yes, they're skilled. Dell Evans. Oh, I remember Dell Evans. Wasn't she in I remember that Dell Evans was very, very attractive actress. And she was in Lionheart, wasn't she? Yeah, I'm in Antarctica. Yeah, I'm going to find out where the polar cap shifted, and that's where my ass is going there. So the polar ice cap shift this way. I'm heading to Colombia, man. I'm heading to Colombia. My luck is the polar ice caps will shift to Texas, and I won't have to go very far. So, yeah. And then everybody up in everybody up in Antarctica, and it's going to be a desert up there. Let's see, yeah, there you go. Leather boots, fringe, lipstick, S&W. Hey, it's not a good like post-apocalyptic movie if you don't have that stuff in it. I'm sorry. Now I will say there's some good ones out there. There's some good ones that came out not too long ago that I actually enjoyed, that really had a good twist at the end. The Book of Eli. All right, wait. RPM saying I'm going with the conspiracy theory people and joining the aliens at Antarctica. They got a ship buried up there. They got a ship buried up. All this water's got to go somewhere. The The river's covered with 75% water, so I'm pretty sure it's got to go somewhere. It didn't all evaporate. Book of Eli was awesome. All right, so I got to ask RPM, since we're kind of like now on film discussion here. Did you see the end coming? I had no idea. I like it because they got me. I had no idea that book was in Braille. I live in 2 deserts. Water, trust me. The Penguins will fight us for turf war. Penguins versus vampires versus Lincoln. You know, that could be a winning movie. You know, that could be one. There's your concept right there, April. Like, this summer coming to a theater near you. Bob's heading for the coast. Could just see it now. I only realized it was in Braille at the very end. Yeah, that was the beauty of that. And it was well shot, obviously. Great actors. And I like the fact that it just it had a good story arc to it. And it was, I mean, the idea of we have to do away with all these books. They couldn't have any they wanted control of these books. And the idea that this book, you know, that they wanted control of where he was going or something. I don't remember the exact, yeah. Penguin Smackdown. Starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Sylvester Stallone. And Straight Outta Rehab, Antonio Banderas. So, yeah, the Book of Eli. Now there's another one, and I can't remember his name. He was in Lord of the Rings, and he did one where he's like, it's post-apocalyptic, and he's walking his child somewhere. The Road, is that what it's called? He'll play Lincoln. He'll play Lincoln. Nice. April says, who's going to play Lincoln? Antonio Banderas or Arnold Schwarzenegger? Aliens rise up and exert their right in Canada, and Trudeau is the star. Hey, if they can make a movie about sharks in space, man, they can do anything. You know, that was supposed to be a B movie with some has-been actors. And that single, I remember when I watched that movie, when I was done with it, it's just like, I'm cruising. I see this movie. I was like, oh, why not? And I watched it and I was like, oh my God, that is awesome. And it gets this cult following. Now all these 90210 has-beens are relevant again. They've made 2 or 3 more movies since. They start getting more relevant people that are public, you know. In the first scene, Trudeau meets his end, consumed by a tiger seal. Have you ever seen these tiger seals? Is that what they're called? I think they're called tiger seals. I thought they were fake until I actually saw one. Of course, I Googled tiger seal, and it brought up like some Polydent kind of product to keep your teeth in. Nice. Yeah, tiger seals. There's some kind of like a leopard seals. Yeah, they're huge. They're really aggressive too. You could push Trudeau to one of them. RPM, I'm getting a sneaking suspicion you're not a Trudeau fan. So funny. I Googled. Oh, there's one. Yeah, they got some serious teeth. I wouldn't mess with one. They're supposed to be really aggressive. Yeah, well. So, hey, April, did we answer your question from earlier? I don't remember if I answered your question. I think we have covered the Mary Sue topic for sure. And oh, those tiger seals are really fast. I really thought they were fake. And then I actually Googled it and I was like, holy cow, look at the teeth on that thing. It's like, where did this thing come from? Oh, you haven't asked yet? Well, ask away, my friend. Because the primary. Oh no, we're at this point. I think we're done with the Mary Sue topic, and now we're just talking film, which is I absolutely love talking film. So this is cool. I mean, I do have a review that's going to be released on Thursday, so y'all check that out for sure. Live streaming for newbies, the tech side. I don't know that I'm the most qualified to talk about that, to be honest with you. Um, I haven't done a ton of live streaming. This is about my third or fourth. Um, and I have found it's kind of tricky. It's tricky. It depends on what you're trying to do. Um, you can use just the straight Google Hangout. What I don't like about launching Google Hangout from YouTube is I can't customize my thumbnail for that event, and it just pulls basically my banner artwork and it sticks in it. And I can customize the text, but I cannot customize the banner artwork. So it's just whatever is there on my banner. It sticks as the thumbnail temporarily until I'm done. Well, it's not really that they're changing it. They've added some components to it. You can use. You're going to talk into your webcam. That's fine. I'm using right here. This is just a webcam. I've actually looked at possibly taking one of my cameras and hooking it into the computer. And so your Streamlab, also RPM says Streamlabs and OBS are good programs to use. I have OBS. I've played with it. I haven't actually streamed with it yet. I've used XSplit, which I have streamed with, and I haven't heard of Streamlabs. So I guess unless that's not XSplit, yes. So Streamlabs, I'd have to look up. Look, those are all good tools. Your stream broke the other day. But did you you rebooted your phone when you broke the stream? When you crossed the stream like Ghostbusters? Yeah, this is probably honestly my third or fourth live stream. I've actually live streamed with the Xtreme. The problem I ran into, it's really about getting prepared, making sure that I'm going live. I need to be able to see this chat. And with XSplit, I wasn't able to easily see the chat. I tried at one point bringing in someone to sit there and kind of like help me respond to text, because I was doing live streams where I was doing kind of like how-tos and I was showing some of my work, and it didn't work as clean as I wanted it to. I could use like, oh, are you using a notebook? Yeah, so RPM's only done 3. Yeah, that's a good point. You could practice with OBS, and I know with XSplit, and I'm sure with Streamlab you can actually record without actually broadcasting. With Google Hangout, you can bring it up and get it ready for broadcast. Obviously, I realized that I could share my desktop, so I could switch back and forth, and I can actually share a specific application. So I might just stick with Google Hangout for what I'm doing. Now, if you're wanting to put your image, you've done Skype. Yeah, I've used Skype, and Google Hangouts actually not much different. It's pretty convenient and easy. All you have to do to use Google Hangout, you can go live. You have to forgive me, my nose itching. You can go live quickly with Google Hangout off of YouTube. I've not gone live with my cell phone because I find that it's just a little too demanding. I've live streamed to Facebook with my cell phone, and that's kind of like not been the best either. So I find the Google Hangout works good for me for what I'm doing. Hey, Violet Cobra, how you doing? Hey, if you'll hit that like button for me, and if you guys don't mind shooting this out on the Twitter, and then we'll keep trucking away here. Right now, we're just kind of talking about we've kind of finished our main topic, but I'm all about anything film. If you got a question about film, or you got something you want to throw at me about film, I'm all ears. I love that. But we're addressing a question April had about live streaming. I find unless you want to overlay your face on top of whatever it is you're streaming. Yeah, so you're not going to be able to see the chat on your phone. I do this from my work station here at my desk. I don't think I'd ever live stream from my cell phone because I'd have to have another machine or a tablet of some sort that I could actually look at the chat and see what's going on. My favorite camera, let's see, for streaming or for film. Violet Cobra is asking, what is your favorite camera? So I'd say for film, and if you're talking, I could have any camera. I would probably want, I'd probably go with Panavision because that's what everybody uses. But in the real world, where I'm at in indie film, I still do say that I probably like the Sony E7S, even though it gave me a hard time on my last production because it was kind of hot and it was overheating. I think for bang for your buck and what you're going to get out of it, and what you can do with it, I think you can shoot in 4K. It's a great low light camera. I still love the Sony A7S. I also like if you want to go cheaper and you're going to actually buy it, Blackmagic has a couple really good affordable cameras out there that are the Blackmagic Mini, which is not going to shoot in 4K, but it's going to give you a great shot. And that one I probably, hold on, as April says, I think I'll go ahead and schedule it and audio record it to add a visual over it, publish it later if need be. Oh, cool. Yeah. I mean, you'll play with it. I think after you get a few live streams, you're gonna figure that out, and you're gonna get it the way you want it. That's what's worked for me. I'm definitely not the foregone authority on how to do a live stream. I think James Cox has probably done more live streams than anybody on the planet. So I think if you want somebody that really, really knows live streams, James Cox is the guy. But back to finishing up your question there, Violet Cobra. Yeah, Sony A7S, but if it's on a budget, I have it right here. I love this camera. This camera works for me, and I have it on a little jib right now. This is very cheap. It's affordable, and if you really, really work at it, you're gonna get a great shot with this camera. And this is it's just a Canon 750D. You can get it for a few $100s. And then where you want to spend your money is on the glass. Night, April. Thanks for coming. I appreciate you showing up and helping us out tonight. It was a great conversation. So this particular camera, I can get a really, really good shot out of this camera. It's just when you're dealing with cameras that are not good low light cameras, then all you have to do is make sure you get the right glass on it. This is a 24 millimeter prime Rokinon cinema lens. It's 1.5. It's not the DS. And the only difference between this and the DS is the DS puts and the only difference between cinema glass and standard lenses, because you can get prime lenses that are standard, but you can see the gearing, and that gearing's meant so you can put a follow focus wheel on here, and you can rack focus manually, or you can have it automated if you've got the money for that stuff. But this is a 1.5, and it gets a great shot. It's a little trickier. 750Ds are not. They're good, solid filming cameras, but they're not the most forgiving. So you kind of got to lock it in, make sure you're right. You don't want your ISO to go over about 600. So if it's too dark, you're definitely going to have to light the scene. But once you light it, it's got a 24 megapixel sensor. It's an APC sensor, so it's a Super 35. It's not a full frame 35, but these things are little troopers. They don't overheat. I don't have problems with. They do not shoot in 4K. They don't shoot in 2K. So this minus the glass, you can find this right now on Amazon. 750D. which is a Canon T6i, just so you know. You can probably find a package deal for next to nothing on Amazon. I'm going to look it up. Let's see, 650. Let's see, Canon T6i. There you go. So you can get these package deals for $640. That's going to come with it's going to come with, looks like, 1 or 2 lenses. You're going to have an 18 to 55. You're going to come with a bag, memory cards. It's going to have some ND filters, charging pack, extra batteries, cleaning kits. So it's a little bit of everything. So $640 and you get all that. If you just want the body, trying to see, about $450, I guess. 500. Here you go. 500 for just the body and a memory card. So, I mean, that's not a bad deal. I mean, you can go with the Canon T3i. I just avoid the Nikons. It's not that they're bad cameras. Nikon's a great camera. I'm not biased towards any one camera. I mean, I love the Sonys. I like the Canons for what they can do for me. And I've used the Canon 5D Mark IV, which is a great camera. The Sony A7S, the 5D Mark IV held up better in the heat, and it is a full frame 35 millimeter sensor. I've worked with higher end footage from stuff like Red Epics, and they don't. I mean, if you don't know what you're doing with the camera, it's going to look like your footage is going to look like crap, anyways. So it really doesn't matter how much you paid for the camera itself or the glass attached to it. So the truth is, your cell phone can get good shots. This can get good shots. Or if you've got money to blow, Blackmagic Ursa 4.6, that's a great camera. Not a great low light camera, by the way. So that was a very long-winded answer to your question there, Violet Cobra. I hope that answered your question. All right. So that being said, we're about almost an hour and 40 minutes into this live stream. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wrap this up. I hope you guys enjoyed this chat. I've enjoyed talking to all of you. It's been a great experience for me. We will be back here next Sunday. Probably going to go an hour earlier just so that I can get my guys on the other side of the pond and on the East Coast, give them a chance to jump in here. Oh, now James Cox showed up. What's going on, buddy? Oh, he comes in. What's you doing, James? I was literally just about to end this thing, but now you're here, so the party's just starting. Yes. But you can go back and watch it. We missed you, man. I'm glad you're able to pop in at the end, though. Really do. We had a great conversation. It was a lot of fun. I would have loved to have you in and brought you onto the call. Oh, he just got off work. Yeah, I was telling him that next week I'm probably going to go like an hour and maybe do it at like 6 o'clock your time. Mainly because it's a little easier for our friends on the other side of the world to chime in and be a part of it. It's kind of late over there right now. But yeah, we covered a little bit of everything in this. The only thing we didn't do is review your latest short film. And as far as that other thing, I have no idea what happened with that movie or with that video. I cannot explain why they pulled that video or what happened to it. So it is scheduled for release on my channel in like 4 weeks. So, and I've got a few more short films I got to do some work on, do some reviews on. But did you think I was being fair? You watched? I saw your response from last night to my review of Body, and did you agree or disagree with any of the points that I made there? James. He's probably driving. You just picture James like driving, trying to text, swerving all over the road. That's all right. Well, hey, we're going to wrap this call up, this live stream up. Definitely hit us on the last review that of my video Body. You did the review too late in the live stream. Well, it was kind of like, yeah, I see your point. Oh, you're at home. Would you like to join us? And I'll keep this thing going. There was no one in the chat. I literally had just ended and everybody left. I mean, now we got 4 viewers. It's all because you're here. All right, let's chat for a few minutes. We can talk about that review I did of Body and see what you think of that. Here, I'll send you the link, I guess. I got to, let's see. Add people. What's that? I know. Well, yeah, it's very, really late over there. Oh, there we go. Let me find you, James. That's not. I know it's getting late over there too, so I'll bring you in for a few minutes. Let you. Where are you? There you are. All right. That message is on its way. I sent to you through Facebook. Send it to you through Facebook, brother. So right now we have 3 people watching, and I don't know how many people we got in the chat. Oh yeah, we're good. Here he is. James Cox.
Good evening.
Evening. How are you doing, brother?
Awesome. But I've got this shirt on especially for you. Just done a live stream with Paul a minute till dinner's ready.
So you just got off work, huh?
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
I think we all know what he thinks of my review of his short film last night by his T-shirt.
You saw my T-shirt, right?
Yeah. I was telling everybody, I think we know what he thinks of my review last night.
Okay, so your review was, spot on. I can't complain about what you said. One thing that I do have a problem with was when you started the review. I think it was like over 30 minutes in.
Yeah.
You should have, in my opinion, you should get straight into the review. And because I think that when you finish the review, there's nobody left in the chat, right?
Well, I don't think there was nobody left in the chat. It was towards the end.
Right, because I watched it back. I watched it all the way through, and there was, sure. I don't think I saw anybody commenting to you.
I think that's
after you did the review at the end. There's nobody in there anyway. So I think that if you are going to do this, I think you need to get on with the live stream straight away and just explain we're doing a review. We're doing a review of this movie, yada yada yada, and then just get straight into it. And then if people are there, you still got an audience. Talk to those people to see what they think, because you can always go back. You can always go back and move back on the review of the movie, but. A couple of things that I want to add, and I think you already know this anyway. I don't know if your audience knows this. Every single one of those people in that movie never acted before. Never acted. Never done play, stage, any acting.
Oh, yeah.
So they're total amateurs off the bat, right? So I want to say that. So I think that they really did, great. And it was a rush job. It was all filmed in one day. These guys live over 100 miles away. So apart from the old guy that sits down in it, he lives locally, but he was the one that left, and that's the reason why it never got finished.
Yeah.
I think that you're right about when they are walking, getting out of the car and walking down the path into the woods, that could have been shorter. And in
Well,
all honesty,
that's still a creative decision on your part.
right. But
I tried to limit, those kind of critiques, because then it start to,
yeah,
you start to go into what's the creative thought process behind it.
right.
And so it's like, I said, I think I said, if I were to attack this, you shorten that up. I probably would have done this way or that way, but it's not
Right.
to say
I
that
think
that's
that I
wrong.
needed an audio guy too.
Well,
I think.
I thought you needed to make sure. The hard part was, and real quick, Nathan Like Shrums just chimed in, and Kathy's Life just chimed in. So obviously you got coattails, buddy, because they're all
Oh
coming.
yeah, that's because I liked it, tweeted it out, and added it to my
Big-
playlist. So there's people on Twitter probably seeing
So,
that I put this out there. But my intention was not to come on here because, I just got home or just saying hi, and my girlfriend's making food right now, so I got to get off real quick. So all I wanted to say was, I think it was a fair critique. I think you get it a fair shake. It was basically my first film that I ever filmed,
and,
and
as I pointed out in the beginning of that, I said, just to complete the process now, and I say, now that you know what it all involves, you've got that.
oh yeah, it's tough. It's not easy, not especially when you've got other people.
Yeah.
If it's just you, what in my shoes, like I did, and it's just me, it's not a problem, right? And I'm sure you're going to review that one, but you're sure you've watched it.
I haven't done that one yet.
Okay, but when you've got people, I think there's a lot of things that could have been done. It was a cheap amateur movie. I think that there's lots of potential to take this movie further and into either a series, because
Sure.
What's his name? Ryan and Daddy Saves the World. Justin. He says, this is amazing to say that you've never shot a film before and this was your first attempt. That there's so many spin-offs that can come from this. It could be a series where it ends. I mean, you already know the ending, and where it ends, then there could be another short film, a part 2 to it, and it could keep the audience wanting to come back for more and more and more because the ideas are there.
And as like I pointed out yesterday, I like the concept. I like what you had going, and when you go back, I realized going in that you were dealing with people that had never really acted before, and so that makes what you did even more impressive in the sense that you had that one long continuous scene,
right,
that didn't break.
It took like 4 hours to shoot.
Well, to ask an amateur that's never acted before to not only be able to remember their lines and be able to deliver them on cue and all that stuff, but then to kind of like interact with it. I mean, that's a tall order for an experienced actor.
I'd like to reshoot it again, but with more experienced actors, and have somebody like you along, or Justin, that's got more experience with film, to do a better job than what I did. But I've got to go because dinner's ready. I've got stuff to do. But I just thought I'd come. Thanks for having me on. And
absolutely, man. Anytime.
All right. Good night, guys. Take care.
All right, everybody. So there we go. There we have it. That was James Cox, and he was kind of giving me feedback from him watching the review we did last night of his short film. And that's going to be a wrap for tonight. We're going on almost 2 hours. It's like 45 minutes longer than I expected to go, but it was some good conversation. We had a great chat about film. And please like, share, tweet this out. Help me grow this channel. Main purpose here is to get remonetized so that we can bring money in for our projects. And if you like what you saw, definitely like, share, send me a message on Twitter, Paul_SHP at Twitter. And until then, don't forget, Thursday, we have another film review. It's a short film review called Hope. That will be out Thursday afternoon, 2 o'clock Eastern time. And until next time, we will see y'all soon. Have fun. I'm going back to work.